What's going on, ladies and gents? How we all doing today? Today I wanted to do something a little different from my normal videos that I usually do. Today I wanted to take a video concerning a forklift. Those of you that are out there looking to learn how to drive a forklift, and excuse the boards and little stuff that's on the back there. This is one of the Yales. This is a sit-down, considered a sit-down forklift. They're cherry pickers, in which, some people may think that it's a forklift in which they stand up type of situation. That is not a forklift, it's a cherry picker. And then we have side loaders. We have some other type of machines that kind of goes left to right, and they'll have forks and all that stuff as well, but you stand as well with that. That is considered named a side loader. So if you're out there, maybe you're looking for a job right now, and they said, oh, we're looking for a position for a side loader or whatnot, don't differentiate that to think that this is the same thing and whatnot. This is a forklift. It's a sit-down forklift. It's really simple to use. If you know how to drive a car already, it's basically about the same thing. If you already know, if you've ever been in a go-kart and all that stuff, it's basically about the same thing type of situation. Just that this is more something that you need to be very careful on operating, because you can hurt someone if you're not being careful in what you're doing. So we're gonna get to a little basic stuff about the forklift, how to start it, what to look at, opening your forks, closing your forks, knowing your weight capacity on your forks and all that stuff. And this is a propane forklift. It's not an electrical forklift. So this will be a propane. We do not have electrical forklifts in our warehouse. So we're using propane. So this will be basically propane. Should still be about the same thing when it comes to operating it and whatnot. The only difference will be fueling it up and whatnot. Some of you might be thinking, why do you have that up there and all that stuff? This is for shade from the sun and all that stuff, because they have guardrails on the top which has openings. It's kind of a security measure. But because of the sun and all that stuff that beams down on you when you're working outside and all that stuff, and sometimes occasionally rain, that we'll have to go out in the rain loading a truck and all that stuff. So this will kind of give us a little bit of protection. Well, gives me a little bit of protection from getting wet and from sun rays and all that stuff. All right, guys, so let's get to it. Most of your information considering your forklift and all that stuff will be right here, which will give you your model number. You have your serial number as well, and then you have your weight of it, 21,940 pounds. Capacity will be right here as well, which will be 6,310 kilograms. In pounds will be 13,900. So what does this mean? This is what it's telling you, what its load capacity is, as in what it can pick up. So being that it's saying 13,900, I wouldn't go and say, hey, it says 13,900, so I can pick up 14,000 type of situation. You are putting yourself at a high risk of getting yourself hurt, damaging whatever you're trying to load onto wherever you're trying to load it. And if people are around you, you can accidentally get them hurt and all that stuff. So you have to be very careful when you're checking your weight capacities. Make sure what you're picking up, say for instance, if it's 10,000 pounds, this says it's 13,900, you should be fine with loading it. I wouldn't go above 5 to 1,000 pounds more from this. Obviously, if it's 13,900, you don't want to do 14,900, you don't want to do 14,500 or anything like that. You want to stay within the 12,000 range, and 12,500 to 13,000 at most. That 900 pounds, you might be thinking, oh, I'm still good and all that stuff. It's kind of risky, because the more you raise your forks, depending on how high you have to put the material. Like for instance, I've just finished loading a trailer right there. You have to raise your forks up, and the higher you raise your fork, the more weight is starting to lean forward. So you're putting at a higher risk and all that stuff. So that's why anytime they're saying that when you're operating stuff, you want to keep it on as low as possible to the ground when you're moving around. So once you start loading, that's when you start raising it up, and then you don't want to go too high up. Say whatever you're loading, this is the height of what you're loading it's at. This is the height right here. Example, just an example. You don't want to go and take your forks all the way up here type of situation. No, you want to raise it up just a little bit more here to about maybe that length as well, and you should be fine. And get it on the truck, put it down, and all that stuff. But you want to keep it grounded as much as possible, because the higher you go with material, the higher the risk of it going tilting forward, the fork tilting forward and all that stuff when you have a lot of weight on it. If it's 500 pounds, 1,000 pounds, you should be all right. You'll be fine and all that stuff. 2,000, 3,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds, you should be fine, because this can take up to 13,900. Most lifts also have a height adjustment, so how high the forks will go. Some people tend to think that they can take their forks all the way high up as well when they're putting stuff on high grounds and stuff like that. Not every fork lift is able to do that. So you have to always run around, check whichever forks, how high the forks go, because this doesn't go all the way up. And for safety reasons, so that's why they built it that way, because so you don't be dumb and try and do some crazy thing trying to pick up something that's 11,000 pounds and taking it up 10 feet off the ground type of situation, because now you are really going to tilt that forward and you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to hurt somebody, you're going to damage product and all that stuff. So that's why they do stuff like that. So your keys will be right here. We're starting it. These are your knobs to adjust and control your forks. We'll get that in a second. Your steering wheel, your horn as well. Your e-brake is right here. This is to adjust the bar if you want to lower it or you want to push it forward as well. So getting on your forklift and all that stuff, always want to make sure you have your seat belts on right there and all that stuff. Get your safety on and all that stuff. You'll have your brake and you'll have your gas pedal. Usual it's just two: brake, gas, brake, gas. So when you're starting your when you're starting your forklift and all that stuff, this is basically your gear. Front will be up, will be forward. In the middle will be neutral, and down will be reverse. So anytime you're starting your forklift and all that stuff, you cannot have it on the top and think that, oh, I will get my forklift started without your e-brake and all that stuff. You see, right now it's already indicating it's supposed to be in neutral. You don't have it in neutral. So I'm going to attempt to start the forklift. It's not going to start. Safety reasons. Even if you put gas on it, it's not going to start as well. Now, engage your e-brake and all that stuff. And some forks, they will start if the e-brake is on. So you have to be careful with that. So you always have to make sure your gear is on neutral. Anytime you get off the fork, make sure it's on neutral. I'm going to show you an example right now in a few seconds what happens when you forget to put it on neutral and you get off the lift. So when you're starting it, e-brake needs to be on or your foot needs to be on the brake. Either way, but it's always best to have your e-brake engaged. Never just depend on just your brake. Always make sure you have your e-brake engaged, which will indicate right here parking. That means it's your e-brake. Sorry that the forklift is a little dirty. You have your battery, and I think that's your oil, and that's maintenance and all that stuff, which this will all go off once you get it started. So starting it is only three. 1, off, contact, and then started. So now you're on and all that stuff. You can see majority of your lights have gone off. Majority of, except your neutral and your park brake. So your park brake will be your e-brake, sorry. Your steering wheel as well, your horn is right there. So now, if you want to go forward, you put that forward. If you don't put your foot on the brake, it's not going to go forward. So that's why it's indicating that right there. It's flashing. It's indicating it's on the forward position. So you still have to be careful, because if you gas it, it's going to go. So once you release the gas, it's going to automatically try its best to throw it on neutral, just for safety reasons. So once you release your park brake and then you hit the gas a little bit, you see it's going to go. Okay? Brake as well. So going back, reverse, it's the same thing. That's going back. Okay, you'll hear your beeping noise. Now if it's an old forklift, it might not have that beeping noise operating and all that stuff. It needs to be repaired, it needs to be replaced, and all that stuff. Coming to the side here, these I don't really mess with. I don't really know what these are for, but these will be your lights. I don't know, I think this is to lock it in a certain gear. I don't know what that's for as well. So your lights basically, well, it's kind of bright out there so right now, but that's for your lights if you want to operate turning on your lights. If it has backlights and all that stuff as well, that's to turn it on and turn it off. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. So we put it on, we engage our e-brake when we're getting off the lift every time. Even if you're leaving it running and all that stuff, make sure you have it on engaged. Now I'm going to show you the example of what if you forget to do what you're supposed to do and you're getting off the lift. So engaged. So say you've gone to the point that you parked, and now you get off your lift and you do this. You just get off. You see, right now it's not beeping because your e-brake is on, right? So you're fine. It's telling you that you're still safe and whatnot. But guess what? You do this, and now you go to a point and then you just stop. If you release your brake and you forget, you see right now it's on neutral, but it's still blinking as going forward, and you get off the lift. You see, it's alerting you that, hey, you did something wrong. Get back on this and get your e-brake engaged immediately. So when it gives you that alert, it's alerting you, telling you that you've forgotten to engage your e-brake as well. So adjusting your forks, these are your three forks. Some of them, which is if you have an electrical fork, adjustable one that's automatically, you'll have 4 of these. I have one inside, but my hands were not on it today for me to be able to show you guys that, but perhaps in the future I'll do another video with that fork. So now with this, if you want this bar right here that shows down and up, it's literally just telling you what it is. To raise up your forks, go up, down will be up. It's on the reverse on it. So, and up will be down. Pressing it down is up. You can even do it with one finger. If those of you might be thinking, is it really hard to press? No, it's really not. You can do it with one finger and all that stuff. Now, the second one right here will be adjusting your fork, as it's showing you right there. The diagram is your forks right now. So you press it down to raise your forks up, and then you press up to push your forks down, to aim your forks down type of situation. So when you're going to pick up material, you always want to make sure you have it at an angle in which it's facing like that a little bit. That way you're not going straight, but don't have it too far down, because even if you go in the material, you can rub onto the pallet or the ground itself. So you have to make sure you have it at least an adjustable height, whereby it's not aimed straight to the ground and it's not aimed too far away from the ground type of situation. So the third one will be side shifting left and right. Raise it up from the ground a little bit, and up will be left, down will be right. So that's when you're adjusting your forks, when you're adjusting your material and what you're picking up and all that stuff. Okay, so we're going to adjust this, raise it down a little bit, and when you come to having to move your forks around, some forklifts you might be lucky to have an electrical one where you don't have to actually do this manually, but this is one of those manual ones, and 90% of the time it's going to be one of those manual ones. So this one, you have to raise this up. That's the tooth, that's the security measure right there. You raise that up, and then you kind of push this to go sideways. Now, if it's not greased up, like you see here, it's kind of dry. If it's not greased up, it can be a pain in the butt to open and close, frankly speaking. So always make sure as well, when you open it to how far you need it opened or close to, always make sure to remember to push the pin down so that it locks it in place. If you forget to, this will slide, depending on how broken this might be, how old this piece is. It's just gonna be sliding. It's just gonna slide and all that stuff, and you can put yourself in a predicament whereby you're picking up something, or you already have something on your forks, and you're going to move it to go load it or whatever the case may be. You can do a left turn or a right turn, and again, depending how old this piece is, if it's not holding strong enough, guess what? The fork is gonna move, despite even if you have weight on it. The fork is gonna move, and then next thing is boom, you're just gonna drop material on the ground. So always make sure you have this down when you're done. When you're adjusting your forks as well, always make sure, do not put your feet there. Do not put one foot there when you're doing opening and closing. Always make sure your feet are away from these forks, because they can tip off of this. It's happened before. It went off, it tipped off because it wasn't securely on completely, and it went off and it fell on somebody's foot. That person lost his toe, frankly speaking. This thing right here is very heavy, so it's not something that you can just, if it's on the ground, you can just push that forward to get your foot out, or you can just pull your foot out or anything like that. No, it doesn't work that way. Despite even if you have steel toes on, it's going to press onto that metal, that steel that's in your steel toe shoes, and it's going to drop right to your toes. So that guy lost his one toe when he was actually opening and closing the fork. So you always have to make sure feet is completely away, safe away. Use your one, and use your one arm right here, and just push until you get it to where you need it to be, and then lock. That way you know that, okay, you're safe and all that stuff. Anytime you're adjusting anything with the forks, always try and make sure the pins, the forks, are in the middle of the fork. Don't have it too far to the right, don't have it too far to the left, because now, depending on how long you have it that way and you're picking up and putting stuff down, you are going to actually bend the mass on it. It's going to be sideways. So don't think that, this is solid, so it's not gonna go anywhere, it's not gonna tilt or anything of that nature. That's not how that's gonna work, okay? So you wanna make sure you always have that in the middle as best as possible. You're gonna have one of those situations whereby you can't have your forks in the middle because you need it on this side completely so that you can load something or you can get something offloaded. You have to use your brain and go from there with adjusting things. When you're picking up stuff as well, anytime you pick up material, always make sure you have it on the minimum edge, okay? As soon as you're done having everything picked up, do your very best to bring it as far close to the middle or bring it to the back. Why do I say this? Because if you have material, you're immediately trying to put it right there in the middle, and your material is behind something else. Once you get your forks in, guess what? You're gonna end up picking up the other material that's behind it. So you wanna make sure you have your material that you're picking up at least close to this edge as possible. Pick it up, pull it back away from whatever is in other, behind it and whatnot. Pull it back and then put it back down. Go back in again until you're able to get it in the middle. Once you're done with that, do your level best again. Keep it in the middle or all the way back to the fork, to the end of the fork there. For safety reasons, That way it doesn't roll on you or it doesn't fall on you. Okay. What else would you guys want to know when dealing with forklifts? I mean, moving it and all that stuff, your steering, once you get it going forward, it's really easy. Gas it, just a little tap, and she'll start going. Depending on how old the forklift, sometimes you might need to put a little more gas to it. But it's just like driving a car or a go-kart and all that stuff as well. So you turn left, roll it left. I use this right here because it's so much more easier, but you can use your hand as well. Always make sure to use 2 hands until you become a real pro. But even at that situation, nobody is a true master on a forklift. So you always have to be careful and always have both hands on your steering wheel and always focus at what you are doing. Don't be on your phone or doing something else while operating a forklift. It's very dangerous because this is nothing but steel. You hit somebody with this, you are actually going to hurt them, if not kill them. So you have to be very careful when you're adjusting and operating this forklift. Do they go really fast? They're not meant to go fast, even though if you put your foot all the way down, they're not meant to go super fast or anything like that. Again, for safety reasons. So we're going to go like this real quick. Make sure there's no truck back there that needs me. All right, we are good. And then you get it a little speed right there. That's your second gear. And it goes to third gear. You see how we went on that bump like that? You always want to do your best as well to avoid situations like that, to kind of prevent the forklift from having loose screws and all that stuff or damaging stuff like that. Don't feel like, oh, it's not my car, so I don't care. I'm just gonna go over holes, potholes, or whatever the case may be, and I'll give a damn. Do your level best to actually take care of when you're operating these machines, because they are very expensive to repair. So don't look at it and be like, oh, I don't care, it's not coming out of my own pocket, the company is gonna have to take care of it type of situation. No, don't do that. Take care of the machine, because when the machine breaks down, you are going to be without a forklift and all that stuff, and which can end up with you being without a job. So be careful when you're operating that. So the same thing again, we're going to reverse. Always look, you have your side mirrors. Always make sure you use them and always look back. Okay? When you're going back, you always want to go back slow. Do not operate go back at a high speed. Do not do that. You know, do not do that. Always go back at a slow speed and all that stuff. And occasionally use your horn to alert people that, hey, you are in the area, you are backing up, you are on a forklift and all that stuff. Despite the situation of they may hear that beeping, you always want to occasionally give that little beep. That's it. You know, give them that little horn right there. That way you know that, hey, I'm in the area, please be careful and all that stuff. Other times, if you have other people just coming from the sides or anything like that, you want to give them double taps or triple taps so that they have heard you, that you're coming and all that stuff. But despite even you with you going, always slow down, because you never know when you have to do an emergency stop. If you're going too fast, you can hurt somebody and all that stuff as well. Okay, so depending on your weights and all that stuff, you have smaller lifts. They're a little bit smaller. They don't take up to maybe 3,000 or 4,000 pounds in which they can pick up, depending on your job and what you guys do there. That if you do operate with a lot of heavy stuff, then you're going to need a heavy operating lift. If not, if you're doing just pallets, that's, you know, sodas and stuff like that, 15, those are like what, 1,500 pounds, 2,000 pounds at most. You may be fortunate, maybe might go up to 3,000 or 4,000 pounds in weight. That's it. What we operate here, depending on what it is, you know, we go from 500 to 100 pounds. 100 pounds to 500 pounds to stuff that goes up to even 13,000, 15,000. Right now, we used to operate stuff, parts before that used to go up to 20,000 pounds, 21,000 pounds a piece of weight. So we don't have that lift anymore. It's been transferred to one of our other locations and all that stuff. And that's one of those bad boys right there on that trailer. As you can see, those guys are 14,000 pounds of weight. So these you know, in most of the time. These right now, these are a little bit under 13,000 pounds, so I'm able to use this lift to actually operate with loading the coils. I only use that, and that's what we call coils. So I only use this lift when I'm operating or having to load certain things with heavy weight and whatnot, because this is only one of our only other lifts that can lift up to 13,000, 14,000 pounds. We have another one that's 14,000. This one is 13.9, and the rest of it is like 9,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds in weight capacity, maximum weight capacity. So we want to always make sure to keep this in pristine condition. That way we don't break it or anything like that, because if it goes down, then we're down to only one lift, and if that lift goes down, then we're kind of screwed with being able to actually do our job with loading materials on these trucks and trailers and whatnot. Okay, so propane as well. When you're switching out your propane, when you come to the propane tank is here. Every time you have your propane, I don't know why the heck this is always like this, but it always aims like it's on the empty, which here says okay, but this never changes. This never goes to full or anything like that I've noticed. So you always have to depend on your machine. You can always occasionally tap it, like you know exactly how much work you do, how long a propane tank will take you, and all that stuff. As when you keep operating it, when you keep using it, you start to know, hey, okay, I should be at half tank right now, or I'm close to an empty tank, so I need to check that and get it replaced. If not, it has a fuel that it will alert you, just like your car. It'll have a fuel that, hey, you were low on fuel and all that stuff. But it's not that one of those, it's not like exactly a car that you can go 10,000, you know, 10 miles or 15 miles type of situation before it completely kills on you. This might go maybe 2 more miles. When it has that, when it indicates, that indicator comes on, you might have 2 more miles on it, and that's about it. So anytime it comes on, you want to do your best to aim to go and have it replaced, you know, change your tank and go from there. But to change it is simple. You just close your tank, make sure it's closed. If your lift is still operating, you want to wait until it airs out, it uses up all the propane that's already in the line. If not, if you open this right here, the propane is going to spill out and all that stuff. And you see, I had a situation that's what happened right there. You're going to have frostbite. Or is it called frostbite? That's what they call it? I think so. And it can get severe. So you have to be very careful. And this is with me wearing gloves. I had gloves on that day. It burnt right through the glove. It's very cold. It doesn't like it's burnt, but it's very cold. It's very, very cold. So once it gets in there, it freezes your hand and all that stuff. So you have to get off and get it in water and all that stuff. So that's why I had that little 2 stains right there on that day. So you always want to make sure this is closed. Wait until it dies completely out, until the lift itself dies completely. It goes off on its own. Right now, because this is full, that's why it's still running. I see. Now you see right now it just shut off. So that means that's it telling me, hey, you have no gas in the line. So now when you're opening this again, remember that this is in the closed position. If it's empty, you should be okay. But if it's like a half a tank or anything like that, then you always have to make sure you're wearing gloves. This is only a demonstration aspect. That's why I'm doing this. But when you're opening it and all that stuff, you're gonna hear that. See, so it's still got a little bit of propane in there, but I'm still fine. I can still change it. But if there is a lot of propane in there, all this is going to start freezing up. And once it starts freezing up, that's when you're going to be in a little bit of a predicament right there. I'm going to open it a little bit and see if I can get it to do that a little bit. I'm not going to overdo it though. I'm trying to burn myself again because of a video. If I do that, you guys better send me $1 million. Okay, it's not doing it, so I'm not trying to burn myself right now. Okay, so always make sure this is all the way tight as well. Make sure if you feel like when you're screwing this on and is resisting, it means you are not lined up properly. Take it back off again, redo it again. Once you completely closed it and all that stuff, open it just a little bit. to make sure you have no leaks going on. Because again, if there's a leak, you're gonna see steam, and this is gonna, all this surrounding area is gonna start freezing up type of situation. So immediately you want to make sure you close it and wait for that to kind of air out a little bit before you get it. If it's not a lot, you can still get it with your gloves, but if it's a lot on there, leave it alone and come back to it as when it all dies down and all that stuff before you get back to it. So you want to make sure you open your tank just a little bit. Don't immediately go and poof, open it all the way up and all that stuff. Even though you've got this completely in, it's secure and all that stuff, I still don't open it all the way up. I always just open it just a little bit, say a turn like that, and I'm okay. It's not leaking, it's not spraying out a lot of propane going into the line. So in case if there's a leak or anything like that, you're kind of safe and all that stuff. The propane tanks, the propane itself does have a distinguished smell when you guys opening and changing your tank and all that stuff. You can smell it if you're operating the forklift as well. If it's leaking, it does have a distinguished smell to alert you that, hey, you might have a leak, so you need to jump off, or you might see somebody else on their lift and you smell it. You want to let them know, hey, can you check your tank just to make sure, because these things right here are flammable. They are flammable. They'll alert you all and all that stuff right there. Okay, these things will go up in flames. So make sure there's nobody smoking in the area, nobody's doing anything of that stupidness around these things right here. Even if you see here's your buddy or whatever the case may be, guess what? If this blows up, it's going to take a lot of you out. And if you're already in a building where you have multiple propanes in there, one has to go off. You don't know, you might create a chain of effect, and you might really hurt people. So you want to always make sure you are safe. You're safe, your partners are safe, your teammates and all that stuff are safe when operating these guys right here. Backing up and all that stuff, you get some scratches and all that stuff. If you do happen to scratch your lift, like situation like this was not done by me. This was somebody else. Somebody backed up and they scrubbed it and all that stuff, scratched it and all that stuff. It's not going to damage the forklift. It's not going to damage it, but it will leave that right there and doesn't look new. When these guys come in brand new, you do your level best to keep it in pristine condition. You have no idea how many other lifts we have in there that just look like dog shit. That's why I've had this for a year. And anytime like the service guys come and check it out and all that stuff, they're surprised to see that, hey, it's still looking this good. Other than it's just dusty right now, it's kind of dirty, just needs a little bit of car wash, like a wash, which I'll do later on this afternoon after lunch and all work is done. I'll have it washed down and all that stuff. But when you're washing it down as well, you wet rag and all that stuff, you can wipe it down. The sides, you can kind of hose it down. The wheels, you can hose it down and all that stuff. But when it comes to stuff like in here and all that stuff, the seats and the bars, the steering wheel, you want to just get yourself a wet rag and all that stuff and just kind of wipe it down and all that stuff to keep it clean and whatnot. Because you gotta remember, it's going to be your operating vehicle. You don't want it consistently dirty or anything of that nature. So you want to take care of it and it will take care of you. So that should sum up this video when it comes to being on a forklift. Remember, safety first. Safety first. Steel toe shoes. Even though you're operating a forklift, steel toe shoes. You never know. Guardrails. I always want to make sure these things are there, protected and all that stuff, in case anything comes up. You picked up something, you're coming down, you make a mistake, it comes down. These guys right here should protect you, but still they have their space. They, depending on what you're dealing with, it can go through, it can kind of hurt you. So you need to always make sure you're paying attention and all that stuff. Do not play around on these things, racing and toying around and all that stuff. As you see, it has a little bit of a safety thing right there. If you do happen to flip these guys over, they do flip over. If you're playing around and do a sharp, fast turn and all that stuff, yes, they do tilt. This has happened even with me, actually before. They do tilt. Well, it didn't tilt all the way or anything of that nature, but I kind of felt it a little bit, jump up a little bit and go back down. As they tell you right here, when it's going over, do not jump off. You need to stay seated, hold on to it, firmly lean, keep your head down on the steering wheel, keep yourself secured as best as possible and hold on tight. Embrace yourself properly when it goes down. After it goes down, then you might want to try and get yourself up. Do not have your legs sticking out on whatnot when you're on operating the forklift, on all that stuff. Do not be driving a forklift whereby you have one leg out and all that stuff. Do not do that as well. It is not safe, and then you can end up hurting somebody. You can get yourself hurt as well. Okay, so this will basically sum up this video. I gotta shut it off all the way. This will basically sum up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry, I had a call. So I'm just basically doing a merging with this part. But this will basically sum up this video. If you guys have any questions, hit me up in the comments. If you've never operated a forklift before, it's really not hard. It's really not hard to learn how to operate one. You can learn how to operate one fully in a day, 2 days, and all that stuff. I did not go to school for this. I did not watch no, distinctive training guide or anything of that nature to operate this and all that stuff. I was trained to operate it and all that stuff, and I ended up becoming really good at using one and all that stuff. But still doesn't mean I don't call myself a master on it, because nobody is a master. There are some people that are really skilled with operating these things. They can do things with handling material, really skilled and all that stuff. And I have a few guys here that I work with that are still, that are like that. But still, do not look at them doing all that thing and think that, damn, this guy's a master with operating a forklift. He knows how to do all this stuff. And you think that, oh, I can never hit that level. Eventually, you will become even better than them, because you have no idea. When I started working here, I had no experience on a forklift. Right now, I can do things whereby I take care of material and all that stuff even better. Like, I can load in certain ways operating the forklift better than even people that have been here longer than me, been here 20 years longer than me, and all that stuff, operating these forklifts and all that stuff. It just comes with knowledge, using your brain, and being, just looking at things and thinking for yourself and all that stuff. And eventually you'll get this working as well. Safety first, guys. Always make sure seatbelt is on and all that stuff. Don't look at me and say, hey, well, you don't have your seatbelt on type of situation. I'm only doing this just a demonstration to kind of show you guys and all that stuff when operating the forklift. But yeah, every day you get on one, always check your forklift out, check for leaks. If you see a leak happening, always park, report it, and let them know, let your supervisor know, let management know that, hey, this is leaking. It's leaking coolant. Is it coolant? Oil? Oil coolant, and you just need to go ahead and park it until they have that serviced and going from there. All right. Thank you guys so much once again for watching this video. I appreciate it. Hit a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll try and do another video if you guys need me to, with concerning operating a forklift, and we go from there. Thank you guys once again, and have a good one.